Hi, this is Jim Hilgendorf, along with my wife Elizabeth, on our journey, traveling together to a new America. Today, I'd like to, if I may, read something that I wrote a couple of years ago, and I think it has some real relevance to our situation here in America today. It's the story of a now little-known German attorney named Hans Litten, who used his lawyer talents to try to expose and stop the rise of Adolf Hitler back when Hitler was mostly an unknown to the rest of the world. In November 1930, a group of supporters backed by Hitler's Nazi party attacked a nightclub frequented by communists. 3 people were killed, 20 people were injured. A police investigation was initiated, but made little headway until Hans Litten took it upon himself to investigate the case himself. He'd been appalled by the brutality of Hitler and the Nazis, who were on the rise in Germany, and he took this opportunity of a trial in May of 1931 to call Hitler himself to the stand. His overall purpose was to expose Hitler and the Nazis for what they really were and to stop them in their tracks. Hitler was deeply worried about what might come out of this trial. The Nazi party was gaining power, and Hitler had represented his party to the public as being law-abiding and patriotic. If this public image were destroyed, the Nazis probably would be finished. Litten began directly attacking Hitler, producing many examples of Nazi-sponsored violence, anti-Semitic propaganda endorsed by the Nazi party. Hitler was finally so rattled at one point in the trial that he jumped to his feet and started screaming at Litten. Litten was at this point of gaining the upper hand when suddenly the judge stopped Litten's questioning and closed the trial, stating the interrogation was not relevant to the attack at the nightclub. Thus, Hitler was not found guilty of sponsoring violence and saved public embarrassment. 2 years later, Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. Less than a month after that, Litten was arrested and thrown into prison. For the rest of Hitler's life, he would never forget the humiliation he suffered at the trial and would now not allow anyone to even mention Hans Litten's name in his presence. For the next 6 years, Hans Litten was shifted from one prison and concentration camp to another, finally ending up at the notorious camp at Dachau. During those years, he was continuously, repeatedly beaten and tortured horribly, having his legs broken several times, teeth knocked out, and worse. He never gave in. He had a photographic memory and would recite poetry to his fellow inmates to try to cheer them up. He made it known that no matter what brutal treatment he received, his mind and spirit were free and impervious to any kind of physical and mental assault. He suffered horribly, beyond what we can probably even imagine. He lived in a world gone completely mad, yet kept his integrity as best he could. In the end, in the middle of a night in 1938, he committed suicide by hanging himself in his cell. It was the end not of his spirit, but simply a final acknowledgement that his body could no longer withstand the violence and punishment. I was deeply, and still am deeply, moved by this man's life and struggle. He was a true hero. He had attacked Hitler in an effort to rescue his countrymen from a horror which he clearly saw coming. He stood up to Hitler, laid his life on the line, and resisted Hitler and everything he stood for to the very end. Hans Litten's heart was larger than the whole Nazi national regime. He showed up Hitler for what he was: a coward, a murderer, and a monster. Hitler could never bear the mention even of his name because it revealed to himself who and what he really was. We have our own Hitlers. They seem somehow to gravitate to power. They're here with us today, worldwide, petty, cowardly thugs and usurpers of power who care not a damn for the people or for the welfare of this world, who build a bastion of obeisance and subservience around them to mask the utter vacuum of their inner self. We have our own Hitlers, too, within our own lives. The little smaller self, the demonic impulses. We have to constantly battle and conquer the Hitler side of life within our own minds and thoughts and words and actions. We need more Hans Littens in this world to bring forth forever a new kind of world and civilization.